Alone at Home, Horror Stories. Join us for a journey into the unknown as we delve into 3 spine-tingling tales set on a stormy night at home. In Whispers in the Dark, ancient secrets emerge from shadowy figures and hushed voices. Knocks in the Night introduce a mysterious visitor who vanishes without a trace. The Enigmatic Caller recounts a bone-chilling call from an unknown entity with uncanny knowledge. These stories will grip you with suspense and leave our characters questioning their very reality. Whispers in the Dark, Alone at Home.
The rain fell in a relentless cadence, a symphony of water drops that tapped against the window panes like skeletal fingers seeking entry. In the midst of this nocturnal downpour, I found myself alone at home, the house wrapped in a cocoon of solitude and shadows. The wind whispered secrets outside, secrets that seemed to resonate with the very walls, each creak and groan an unsettling harmony. It was a night like any other, or so I tried to convince myself. But as the minutes ticked away, an eerie unease began to seep through the cracks of my rationality. Shadows danced in the corners of my vision, fleeting and elusive, yet carrying an unsettling weight. I retreated to the safety of my living room, seeking solace in the soft glow of lamplight. The television hummed to life, casting flickering images that painted the room in shifting hues. I settled into the couch, a blanket pulled tightly around me as if it could shield me from the enigmatic tension that clung to the air. Outside, the storm raged on, a tempest that seemed to mirror the tempest within. I tried to lose myself in a book, to escape into the written word and let my imagination carry me away. But the letters on the page seemed to blur, the words forming a dance of their own, one that was just beyond my comprehension. A chill traced a path along my spine as if unseen eyes were fixed upon me, studying my every move. The silence within the house was palpable, broken only by the occasional rumble of thunder that punctuated the night. And then, a sound, so faint it might have been imagined, a whisper in the dark. My breath caught, my heart skipped a beat as I strained to hear it again. Was it the wind playing tricks, or was it something else, something inexplicable? I sat frozen, the book slipping from my fingers, forgotten. The whispers persisted, growing stronger, filling the room with a symphony of voices that seemed to come from every direction at once. My pulse quickened, the rhythm of fear matching the tempo of the unseen choir. The words were indistinct, fragments of sentences that fluttered on the edge of understanding. And then, from the corner of my eye, I saw a movement. A shadow, fleeting and insubstantial, darted across the room, disappearing into the darkness. My heart pounded in my chest, my breath caught in my throat as I stared at the spot where the shadow had vanished. The whispers grew louder, their intensity building to a crescendo. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice shaky, betraying my fear. The only response was the echo of my own words, bouncing back at me from the walls. The shadows seemed to deepen, the corners of the room becoming pockets of impenetrable darkness. It was as if the very fabric of reality was warping, bending under the weight of an unseen presence. And then a figure materialized before me, its form wavering like a mirage. It stood there, just beyond the reach of the lamplight, its features obscured by the shadows. I could feel its gaze upon me, a gaze that held knowledge, ancient, malevolent knowledge. The air grew colder, as if the room itself was being drained of warmth. A cruel smile twisted the figure's lips, its eyes glinting with a perverse amusement. It spoke, its voice a melodic symphony of whispers, each word carrying a weight that bore down on me. It spoke of forgotten secrets, of buried sins, of a darkness that lurked just beyond the edges of our perception. Fear clutched at my heart, its icy fingers tightening their grip. I wanted to flee, to escape the suffocating presence that seemed to envelop me. But I was rooted to the spot, a mere pawn in a game whose rules I couldn't comprehend. The whispers grew louder, merging into a cacophony of torment, as if the very walls were joining in the chorus of despair. And then, as suddenly as it had begun, it ceased. The figure dissipated, the shadows retreated, and the room was bathed in an eerie calm. The storm outside had abated, the rain now a gentle patter against the windows. I was left alone, shaken, my mind struggling to grasp the reality of what had just transpired. Was it a dream, a hallucination born of my own fears? Or had I truly encountered something beyond my understanding? Something that existed at the nexus of reality and nightmare. I glanced around the room, half expecting the shadows to coalesce once more, to reveal the figure that had haunted my solitude. As dawn approached, its soft light creeping into the room, I found myself questioning my own sanity. But the memory of the whispers lingered, a haunting melody that played on the edges of my consciousness. The storm had passed, but the storm within me still raged, an unanswered question that would forever haunt the corridors of my mind.
Knocks in the night, alone with the unknown.
The moon hung like a pale sentinel in the midnight sky, casting a silvery glow over the quiet suburban neighborhood. I sat alone in my cozy living room, cocooned by the warmth of lamplight, the crackling fire in the fireplace the only company I sought. Rain pelted against the windows, its rhythm a soothing lullaby that should have eased my solitude. Yet, an unease gnawed at the edges of my contentment. As the clock's hands crept toward the witching hour, the patter of raindrops transformed into a symphony of sound. I tried to convince myself that it was merely the storm, the wind playing tricks on my ears. But then, amidst the rain's percussion, I heard it, a soft, almost hesitant knocking at the front door. My heart quickened, a chill skittering down my spine. I strained to hear it again, to confirm that I wasn't imagining things. Seconds stretched into an eternity as I waited, breath held, for another sign. And there it was, the unmistakable sound of knuckles rapping against wood. Who could be visiting at this hour, in the midst of a tempest? My mind raced, searching for logical explanations. Maybe a neighbor seeking shelter from the rain, or a lost traveler in need of directions. But each hypothesis crumbled under scrutiny. No one ventured out on a night like this, not unless they had an urgent reason. The knocking persisted, each rap punctuated by a silent question. I rose from my seat, a shiver coursing through me as I navigated the dimly lit hallway toward the front door. The wood felt cool beneath my trembling fingers as I reached for the handle. With a deep breath, I swung the door open, revealing the wet and windswept night. But there was no one there. I peered into the darkness, the rain misting my face. The empty street stretched before me, devoid of life. Confusion warred with apprehension within me. I was certain I had heard knocking, unmistakable and real. Had my ears deceived me? Had the storm played tricks on my senses? As I moved to close the door, a sudden gust of wind slapped it shut with a resounding thud. My heart raced, a surge of adrenaline flooding my veins, and then from the other side I heard it, knocking, urgent and persistent. My eyes widened, fixed on the door as if it were a portal to another world. Could it be a prank, or perhaps someone in distress, trapped outside in the storm? Every instinct screamed at me to open the door once more, to confront whatever lay beyond. But caution held me back, a fear that whispered of the unknown. With trembling hands, I managed to turn the handle once more. The door creaked open, revealing the night once again. The wind howled, rain-soaked leaves swirling in chaotic dance, and there on the doorstep stood a figure, a shadowy silhouette with no discernible features. "Help me," came a voice, carried by the wind, a whisper that seemed to hold equal parts desperation and malevolence. My breath caught in my throat as I stared at the figure. My rational mind urged me to slam the door shut, to lock it and shut out whatever was out there. But my curiosity was a powerful force, an insatiable hunger that compelled me to know more. "Who are you?" I managed to stammer, my voice barely more than a whisper. The figure didn't respond, didn't move. It stood there, an enigmatic presence that seemed to defy the laws of reality. And then, as if propelled by an unseen force, it stepped forward, crossing the threshold into my home. Panic surged within me, my fight-or-flight response kicking into overdrive. I stumbled back, my heart pounding in my chest. The figure advanced, each step deliberate, its movements almost unnatural. And then, with an abruptness that sent a jolt of terror through me, it stopped, its form dissipating like smoke. The room fell into silence once more, the storm's fury diminished to a mere whisper. I stood there, trembling, the memory of those haunting knocks echoing in my mind. What had I encountered? Was it a specter? A figment of my imagination, or something more sinister? The rain continued to fall, a gentle rhythm that underscored the strangeness of the night. I closed the door, the weight of the unknown settling over me like a shroud. The warmth of the fire and the soft glow of the lamp seemed inadequate defenses against whatever had visited me in the dark. As the night stretched on, I found myself glancing toward the window, half expecting to see that shadowy figure lurking in the shadows. The knocks had brought with them an unsettling truth, that sometimes the terrors that await us are not of this world, and that the veil between reality and the unknown can be disturbingly thin.
The enigmatic caller.
The night sprawled before me, a vast expanse of solitude that seemed to swallow the edges of time itself. I found myself within the confines of my home, its walls standing as silent witnesses to my isolation. Outside, the wind whispered secrets to the windows, the rhythmic patter of raindrops a melancholic symphony to the stillness that enveloped me. With a casual gesture, I brought the room to life, the television casting a gentle blue glow that painted the room in muted hues. As I settled onto the couch, ready to lose myself in the comforting embrace of a movie, the TV screen unexpectedly flickered, and an unknown number flashed on my phone. The digits seemed to dance, an enigmatic riddle that demanded a solution. A moment of hesitation came over me, a moment of rationality versus curiosity. In the end, the allure of the unknown won out, and I answered the call. Static erupted from the phone's speaker, a symphony of crackling that sent a shiver racing down my spine.
I see you.
A voice whispered, its words dripping like chilling icicles, the syllables laced with a bone-deep coldness. Any hint of amusement that had initially crossed my lips was replaced with an unease that crawled beneath my skin. "Who is this?" I demanded, my voice trembling despite my best efforts to appear composed. The voice didn't immediately respond to my inquiry. Instead, it embarked on a haunting narration of my surroundings.
You're seated in your living room, bathed in the eerie glow of the television, shadows dancing at its edges. Your unease is palpable, almost sweet.
A chill traced a path down my spine as I glanced around the dimly lit room. The very shadows seemed to morph into something more sinister, and a primal fear stirred within me. "This is no time for pranks," I managed to utter, my voice edged with a note of anxiety. A soft chuckle, a distant echo of amusement from a far-off realm, wafted through the line.
No prank, my dear. You're not as alone as you believe. I'm watching you.
The room seemed to close in around me, the walls inching closer, the air growing denser. An invisible presence seemed to lurk in every corner, a gaze that saw through flesh and bone. "Enough with this nonsense," I snapped, my words attempting to cloak the trepidation that was fast becoming impossible to ignore. Yet the voice persisted, weaving a tapestry of revelations that sent shivers skating across my skin. It unearthed secrets buried within the recesses of my consciousness, whispered truths that should have forever remained concealed. The walls felt as if they were moving, tightening their grip around me as I hung on to every chilling word the voice uttered. "Who are you?" I stammered, my voice a mere whisper against the weight of my growing dread. In response, a laughter erupted, a hollow sound that resonated with a malevolence that seemed to come from another world.
I'm here, inside with you.
The line went dead, leaving only a void of silence that seemed to stretch on indefinitely. My phone slipped from my suddenly nerveless fingers, landing on the couch with a thud that seemed to echo the heavy beats of my heart. The edges of reality seemed to blur, boundaries that were once so clear, melting away into an indistinct haze. Was this an elaborate prank, a meticulously executed game at my expense? Or was something far more sinister lurking behind the veil, something that transcended the limits of human comprehension? A surge of adrenaline propelled me to my feet, the urgency to escape the clutches of my own home overriding any semblance of rational thought. But where could I flee when the very air around me seemed to pulse with an unnatural tension? I scanned the room, the once familiar space transformed into a labyrinth of shadows and doubt. As if following an enigmatic script, the lights overhead flickered and dimmed, casting the room into an oppressive darkness. Panic gripped my chest, my fingers fumbling to find a flashlight, its feeble beam cutting through the inky blackness like a lifeline. But the feeble light revealed a nightmare. Words oozed down the walls, forming an inky script that seemed to pulse with a life of its own. The words spelled out thoughts that were never meant to be seen, fears that were meant to remain buried in the depths of my consciousness. My heart raced and I staggered back, the flashlight slipping from my grasp. A whisper, intimate and haunting, brushed against my ear.
I'm here, inside with you.
The voice was no longer confined to the phone. It surrounded me, permeating the very air, an ethereal presence that seemed to suffuse every corner of the room. Unseen eyes bore into me, unrelenting and invasive, as if probing the darkest recesses of my mind. The walls seemed to close in, the atmosphere heavy with an otherworldly aura. Driven by a surge of terror, I navigated the oppressive darkness, my fingers outstretched like a blind wanderer in a nightmare. The dimensions of the house seemed to warp and twist, the walls shifting and contorting as if they were alive. The voice persisted, an incessant chant that grew louder, revealing secrets that should have remained hidden. And then, as if guided by some sinister hand, the front door swung open, creaking eerily on its hinges, revealing an abyss of darkness beyond. The voice swelled to a crescendo, a cacophony that seemed to drag me toward the gaping maw of the doorway. I fought against the invisible current, my fingers scraping against the floor as I struggled to maintain my grip on reality. With a final surge of desperation, I tore myself free, stumbling out onto the porch and collapsing in a trembling heap. An unsettling silence descended, the voice fading away as abruptly as it had appeared. The night lay heavy with stillness, the air tinged with the lingering remnants of an otherworldly presence. As I gasped for breath, the realization hit me. My sanctuary had morphed into a malevolent entity, a conduit for something that defied human comprehension. And the voice? Was it a manifestation of my own fears, a creation of my frayed nerves? Or did it herald the presence of something far more sinister, an entity that transcended the boundaries of our reality? I cast a hesitant glance back at the house, its windows like empty eyes staring out into the void. I had managed to escape its clutches, yet the tendrils of fear still coiled around my heart, a chilling reminder that even within the familiar haven of home, darkness could take root and reality could shatter into something unrecognizable.
Which of the stories touch you the most? Perhaps you would have a similar experience yourself. Write it in the comments below the video. If you want scary stories regularly, don't forget hit the like and subscribe button and turn on the bell